Most killers hide. They stalk from the shadows, mask their crimes in silence, and disappear when the world looks their way. But Joanna Dennehy, she did the opposite. She laughed. She flirted. She smiled through the blood. In a span of just 10 days, she became one of Britain's most dangerous spree killers, and she didn't stop because she felt guilt. She stopped because she got bored. This is not just a story of murder. It's a story of control, sadism, and a woman who killed because it made her feel alive. This is the story of Joanna Dennehy. Peterborough, England, a quiet city that doesn't often make headlines. But in the spring of 2013, it became the hunting ground of a killer whose appetite for violence was as chaotic as it was cruel. Her name was Joanna Dennehy, and her spree wasn't calculated or symbolic. It was brutal, random, and soaked in blood. Joanna was far from your typical predator. At a glance, she didn't fit the mold. She wasn't the shadowy figure lurking in dark alleys or the quiet recluse with a twisted journal. She was loud, charismatic. Some even called her charming. But behind that disarming smile was a storm. Something cold and violent brewing beneath the surface. She started with someone she knew. Łukasz Slaboszewski, a 31-year-old Polish national. They met through mutual acquaintances, and Łukasz quickly became infatuated. Joanna toyed with him, flirting just enough to pull him close. Then, with no warning and no provocation, she stabbed him in the heart. Multiple times. His body was wrapped in plastic and hidden in a ditch. No motive, no message, just death for the sake of it. A few days later, she turned her knife on John Chapman, a 56-year-old Falklands War veteran and housemate. He was vulnerable, battling addiction and living on disability. She stabbed him in the neck and chest while he was half asleep in bed. Another man discarded like trash, this time dumped in the same area as Łukasz. Dennehy wasn't hiding what she was doing. She just didn't care. The third victim was Kevin Lee. This one was different. Kevin was her landlord and her occasional lover. He knew Joanna's reputation, but was drawn to her magnetism. She dressed provocatively, played the role of the bad girl, and Kevin, a married man, couldn't stay away. But Joanna had plans for him. She stabbed him in the chest, dressed his corpse in a black, sequined dress, and dumped him in a roadside ditch outside Peterborough, posing the body in a humiliating position, a final act of control, her signature. By now, 3 men were dead in the span of 10 days. Joanna didn't work alone. Gary Stretch, her right-hand man, stood nearly 7 feet tall and was completely devoted to her. Whether out of obsession, fear, or a warped idea of love, he helped her move bodies, clean scenes, and plan the next steps. He later claimed he was under her spell, but that didn't stop him from driving the car or trying to recruit help to dispose of the evidence. After Kevin Lee's body was found, the police began piecing the horror together. The connection between the victims wasn't obvious. Łukasz was a drifter. John was a struggling vet. Kevin was a respected businessman. Different ages, different backgrounds. The randomness of the killings made everything harder and far more terrifying. There was no clear motive, no pattern, just victims who'd crossed paths with Joanna at the wrong time. As law enforcement closed in, Joanna fled Peterborough with Stretch, and the pair embarked on what felt like a victory lap of violence. But they weren't finished. Not yet. Down in Hereford, over 130 miles away, Joanna stabbed 2 more men, this time strangers. Robin Bereza was walking his dog when she approached him, and without a word, attacked him with a knife, stabbing him in the shoulder and chest. He survived, barely. Hours later, she attacked another man, John Rogers. He wasn't so lucky. She stabbed him multiple times, and left him for dead. He lived too, but only after emergency surgery. These attacks were rushed, messy, and out in the open. Joanna had become bolder, reckless even. Her bloodlust wasn't diminishing, it was accelerating. She wasn't killing for gain or revenge. She was feeding something inside her, something that had tasted blood and wanted more. But even predators run out of road. By the time the two were caught, a full-blown manhunt had been launched. Armed police surrounded a hotel in Hereford after receiving a tip. Inside, Joanna was calm, almost bored. She went quietly, without resistance. No last stand, no dramatic speech, just a smirk and a shrug. She told one officer, "I killed to see how it felt. It was Moorish." Gary Stretch, for his part, acted like a loyal dog chasing scraps. He drove the car, helped dump bodies, and reportedly tried to recruit others to help Joanna hide the evidence. He later told police he was in love with her, that he would have done anything she asked. But love wasn't what Joanna was offering. She was offering power, and he mistook it for affection. Back in Peterborough, investigators were still unpacking the horror they'd uncovered. The victims weren't linked by race, age, or social status. They weren't symbols of anything. They were just unlucky enough to be near Joanna Dennehy when the hunger hit. That randomness, unapologetic and unfocused, was what made her spree so unnerving. During interrogation, Joanna showed no remorse. In fact, she seemed amused by the attention. She joked with officers, smiled for the cameras, and talked about the killings like they were items on a to-do list. She even asked a guard if they thought she looked like a psycho Barbie. This wasn't about hiding guilt or pleading for mercy. Joanna embraced what she was. She owned it. At trial, the evidence was overwhelming. Surveillance footage, phone records, DNA, witness testimony, it all painted the same picture. Joanna had killed for fun. And not just once. She was a spree killer, with no discernible trigger. When asked if she felt sorry for what she'd done, she laughed. Said she didn't care. Said she'd do it again. The judge called her case exceptionally serious. That was putting it lightly. In February 2014, Joanna Dennehy was sentenced to life in prison with a whole life order, meaning she would never be released. Only a handful of women in the UK have ever received that sentence. Myra Hindley, Rose West, Joanna joined that twisted club. Gary Stretch was convicted of 2 counts of attempted murder and 3 counts of preventing a lawful burial. He was sentenced to life with a minimum term of 19 years. He wept during sentencing, not for the victims, but for Joanna. Since her imprisonment, Joanna hasn't faded into the background. She's made headlines for attempting to escape, threatening guards, and even forming intense romantic relationships with other inmates. In one letter she wrote, "I have no regrets. That's the part that sticks with you. No regret, no apology. Just a woman who killed because she wanted to, and felt nothing afterward. So why did she do it?" Experts have called her a psychopath, a narcissist, a sadist. But none of those words seem to fully explain Joanna Dennehy. She didn't kill for ideology or out of desperation. She didn't snap. She wasn't abused or traumatized in a way that offers easy answers. The truth may be far worse. She liked it. And sometimes, that's all it takes. Joanna's story isn't about motive or meaning. It's about chaos in its purest form, evil for the thrill of it. The kind that doesn't whisper in the dark, but walks right up to you with a grin, knife in hand, and asks what it feels like to bleed. And for 5 men, she made sure they found out.